What's good, everyone? Scout Team Sports. I am your host, Valiant. We're back in it once again. Appreciate all my subscribers and viewers. Was under the weather, still a little bit from last week, so I took that week off. But we are back at it. Appreciate everybody for continuing to support. What we are getting into today, we're going to talk some NBA first, and then get to the NFL and the combine, and particularly the quarterback talk situation for the draft. The first thing up is going to be the NBA. And as I teased in the midweek scramble, which I appreciate everybody's support for that, which I'm getting a lot of support. Definitely appreciate that. I want to single out one team that probably isn't talked about because they don't have nearly as many stars as the other teams that everybody expects to see in the playoffs and possibly contend for a championship, and that is the Cleveland Cavaliers. Now, in particular, their star is Donovan Mitchell. Of course, he is no slouch when it comes to being the star of a team. He was a star when he was in Utah, and Utah hasn't recovered since they traded him away, and of course traded away Gobert and broke down the team. And of course, yeah, it's only been 2 years, but they're nowhere close to being back to anywhere close to where they were at one point, the number one seed in the West in the playoffs. At least you are a playoff contender, even if, yes, you had the number one seed and you didn't get to the finals, but at least you had the number one seed, which proves that you were and are a contender. And now you dismantle that, and now you're probably not going to make the playoffs once again. You might not even make the play-in tournament. So, nonetheless, we're moving on. And Cleveland, what is it about Cleveland? Just looking at them play, it's one of those things where aside from Donovan Mitchell, there really is no star, but that's okay because they seem to be fine with that. JB Bickerstaff seems to have them playing as a team aside from Donovan Mitchell, no stars really, and you got guys that emerge that step up. But for the most part, there is no other star, and they're perfectly fine with that. But is that enough? Is it enough just to not have stars? What is their identity? So in looking at them play, and then of course the stats also go to prove Cleveland is third in defensive rating in the entire league. Third in defensive rating. So if you think about what a team has to do if they don't have a whole bunch of stars. Most super teams now, or when they started back super teams, you had to have 3 stars or at least 2.5. And I can't say that Cleveland has that, although I've always been a fan of Jared Allen as a center. I was a fan of him when he was with Brooklyn. I was like, okay, when Brooklyn was trying to do their last super team, was like, okay, it's KD, it's Kyrie, and then you got Jared Allen, okay, but then they wanted more, and then they got the beard, and then it was like, okay, you got those 3 and Jared Allen. I'm like, I'm good, but then they traded away Jared Allen, and I'm like, I really thought he was a good young up and coming center. You could always tell he was different by him sporting afro, as young as he was, and in this day and age, and I was cool with that. I liked him, but I'm glad that they started to add more pieces to Cleveland after he got there, and of course after he got there, they traded for Donovan Mitchell, and they are playing as a solid team now, second in the East. Now, the thing is, it's almost like the Clippers in the sense that this is great, but I don't get too comfortable in just saying, oh, they'll be there in the end. They'll be there close to the end. Because just like the Clippers, even like last year, they were the 3rd seed in the playoffs, and they get to, or the 4th seed in the playoffs, and they get to the playoffs, but then they don't, that's about it. And it's like, okay, you're a good, strong regular season team, and it's not, I won't say it's not hard because it's, it's competitive, it's the NBA, it's the best in the world. So it's tough and it's competitive in that sense, but amongst your peers. See, when I say a team is weak or I say a team is strong, I'm not saying I'm not going, oh, this is the NBA. This is, they're in the NBA for a reason. I'm not going by that because that would suggest that I'm saying they're not good or they are good compared to everybody else in this world. I don't compare them to the leagues overseas. I don't compare them to who they would face as Team USA in the Olympics or something like that. I don't compare them to other people. I'm comparing them to their peers within the league. And if you think about within the league, there's a reason why only so many teams go to the playoffs, and that's because the bottom half are so bad they can't make it to the playoffs. So if half your games are against bad teams and multiple times, and then you're a good team and you only have to face other good teams half the time or maybe even less than half the time until you get to the playoffs, your record should look pretty good. Your record should look pretty good. But when you get to, I would say, the second round of the playoffs is when you start to see who's really who. Who's really a major player, because again, you're going to have the play-in tournament, and I know the play-in tournament is never going to go away now because you had the Lakers who got into the playoffs through the play-in tournament, got all the way to the conference finals. You got the Heat who came through the play-in tournament and got all the way to the NBA finals. So now they're going to justify it with more basketball games instead of less, and more mediocrity that we're going to see on a regular basis in the quote-unquote playoffs. But that's another time. Another rant that I'm pretty sure you've heard before. But going back to Cleveland, it's like the Clippers. What are they going to do come playoff time? That defense has to hold up. That defense has to hold up, because when you talk about, you get to a 7-game series and you have to face the Stars night after night after night, the same team. It's different from facing, maybe doing a doubleheader home and home game against, a team that is star-studded, and then you get to face two very weak teams. And of course, you should go 2-2 in those 4 games at worst. So when it comes to the playoffs, what are you going to do? Their defense has to hold up. If you look at the playoffs, if the playoffs started today, them at the number 2 seed. Again, the play-in tournament, I'm not factoring that in right now, but just go by what we see from 7 through 10, and then the Cleveland being number 2. If they face the number 7 seed, that's going to be the Pacers. They shouldn't have any issues with the Pacers. Then you get to the second round, and more than likely they would face the 3rd seed Bucks. But I'm not ruling out the Knicks, because I like the Knicks. I like how they're playing. But I'm just saying, more than likely, if you get Stars, what are you going to do against the Bucks? And if it is the Knicks in the second round, what are you going to do? No, sorry. But that would be 4th round. They would face the 1st seed. So never mind. But what if the Knicks all of a sudden made it up to the 3rd seed and the Bucks dropped to the 4th? What are you going to do when Donovan Mitchell is given all that he has given and he needs help? And the defense isn't, the defense is struggling. Are you going to rely on Max Strus a lot? Are you going to rely on the wily vet Tristan Thompson to do something? Are you going to rely on, who are you going to rely on? Because that's what I fear for Cleveland. It's like you're good as a regular season team, but after that, once you start facing the same good teams, the best of the best, for 7-game series, is it going to be Karis LeVert? Is it going to be Craig Porter Jr., Darius Garland? Who's going to step up that's going to help Donovan Mitchell? And again, I've seen a lot of these guys step up at different times. They're going to have to plug and play. They're going to have to be like, okay, this is your night to step up. This is your night to step up. This is your night to step. We're going to focus on you. We're going to feed you. You got to get hot. You got to do this. You got to plan this thing and organize it, because you can't just hope that organically a different guy is going to emerge every night to help you out, to help out Donovan Mitchell. I don't think that's going to work. You're going to be waiting, and then it happens too late, or it doesn't happen when you need it to, and then all of a sudden you're down 3-1 in the 7-game series. You don't want that. So number one, the defense has to hold up. And then number two, there's got to be somebody other than Donovan Mitchell who can consistently step up offensively to help the Cavaliers come playoff time. Or you're going to have a rotation of guys who step up to help Donovan Mitchell come playoff time. It's nice to see this team be able to stand on their own without LeBron. Nothing against LeBron. But it's nice to see this team stand on their own. And as long as they have a star to lead them in Donovan Mitchell, then, they can compete. But at a certain point, it's like, okay, are we just a good regular season team because we beat all the bad teams 3 times apiece? And come playoff time, we can't do anything? Or are we really going to do something, make a run? To me, the Cavaliers have to at least make the conference finals for this season to be a success. Because of how good you did last year and getting to the playoffs, top of your division. You do the same thing this year, and it's like, okay, you've got to make some type of push in the playoffs, because other than that, you're just going to be known as this really good regular season team, and nobody's going to take you seriously come playoff time. And I'm talking about your fans. Of course, the other teams you're facing in the playoffs are going to take you seriously because they want to beat you. But your fans, the fan base, the media, if you care about that or not, but especially your own fan base, your own management, your own staff, they're going to need to take you seriously, and you have to prove yourself worthy of this team staying together. And this team, come contract time, we re-sign everybody, keep everybody around so we can continue to make a championship push. Or are we just going to be like, oh, we're a good regular season team, and come playoff time, somebody just walks in and mops the floor with us? I really hope that doesn't happen. Sorry. Really hope that doesn't happen. But again, just wanted to touch on a team, like I said, they're not going to get all the attention. They're not going to get all the fanfare. It's going to go to Boston. It's going to go to Milwaukee. Again, the Knicks, because they're in New York and they have emerging stars there. But to me, it's clear cut that Donovan Mitchell is a star, but the Cleveland is still not getting that much attention. Again, Boston, Milwaukee, New York, even Philly gets more attention than they do. Miami is going to be the play-in tournament again, probably. And if they run through everybody again, I'm like, okay, the East is a joke. The East is an absolute joke. If you let the Miami Heat run through you again from the play-in tournament. Okay. But Cleveland, I'm hoping Cleveland makes some headways. I would say getting to the conference finals would be an accomplishment for them. Of course, everybody wants to win a championship, but I would say getting to the conference finals would be the accomplishment that would propel them and help them continue to progress. Because, like I said, first round, you're probably going to face somebody everybody expects you to beat, a mediocre team that you probably have beaten 2 to 3 times, if not more, in the regular season. That doesn't count. Second round, you're going up against major players. Second round, they're either going to be going up against the Bucks, the Knicks, and I would say, probably the Bucks or the Knicks, because if the Bucks drop to 4, then the Knicks would go to 3, and then they would face the third seed. They would face the Knicks in the second round, or if the Bucks stay 3, then they're facing the Bucks in the second round. If they drop to 3, then they face the 2 in the second round. If they were to drop to 4, I don't think they would drop to 4. But if they did drop to 4, that means they'll face the number 1 seeded team in the second round. So you getting to that third round means you got past a really, really tough opponent, a major player, a championship contender in the second round. So if you get past one major championship contender in the second round, then I can take Cleveland seriously. Even if they get mopped the floor within the conference finals, if they get past the second round against a major championship contender, and they get to the third round, which would be the conference finals, then I can take Cleveland seriously. Then I think their own fans could take them seriously. The media, everybody would take them seriously and would not be overlooking them because of their lack of quantity of stars. But yeah, Yeah, I'm hoping for good things for Cleveland because, like I said, to me, in the grand scheme of basketball media and pro basketball media, they get the least amount of attention of all the championship contenders, in my opinion. But some would argue, are they a championship contender or again just a regular season giant, if you will? But yeah, that's it for the NBA talk. So much other things we can get into, but that's what I'm touching on for this particular week. And we will get back to the NBA next week as things continue to progress towards the playoffs. Want to say once again, appreciate each and everybody for supporting this podcast. Please continue to like, share, and subscribe as we continue to move forward. We're moving on to football, pro football, and the NFL. If anything jumps off in college, then I will be sure to cover that. But other than Coach Prime, I really don't care. I'm kidding. But yeah, if something else it jumps off other than the whole coaching carousel, which I've already covered, with Washington's head coach going to Alabama, then replacing him, and then replacing the UCLA head football coach. Other than that, not too much going on in college football, other than curious as to, the investigation with Michigan and Harbaugh, even though he's not there anymore, he's the head coach of the Chargers moving on. What are they going to do about that national championship if they still deem that Michigan needs to pay a penalty for stealing signals and calls and stuff? Anyway, we're getting on to the NFL, and the Combine is, of course, already underway. There is big talk about what is needed in the draft coming up, about almost a little less than 2 months away. And then we've got, of course, the all-important position in football, quarterback. And I came across this article: NFL teams most likely to pick a quarterback in the first round of the 2024 draft. We start, of course, with the Bears. The Bears have the best of both worlds, even though they're, one of the worst teams in the league. But do we keep Justin Fields, or do we get Caleb Williams, who is more than likely going to be the number 1 overall pick? My thing is, why does it matter if y'all ain't going to build an offense for the quarterback? That's why Justin Fields doesn't look that good. Justin Fields could do. Think about where Justin Fields came from. He came from Ohio State, where he had the pick of the litter. At least maybe not the most elite offense, but one of the most elite football teams. So whether it was not that many stars on offense on Ohio State, but yet he had a defense that could get him the ball a lot, or he had a superior offense to work with, he looks great when he has weapons. Tell me a quarterback that doesn't look great when they have weapons. Even an average quarterback looks great when he has weapons. That's why Brock Purdy is that's why Brock Purdy is where he's gotten to. And I'm not taking anything away from Brock Purdy, but I don't think he's great yet. He can still get there, but he's nowhere near great. But they got to the Super Bowl because of the team. They got to the Super Bowl because of the defense. They got to the Super Bowl because of one of the best. Remember, I said Detroit had the best combo, in my opinion, but one of the best running back duos in McCaffrey and Debo. And of course, Debo serves as a running back and a wide receiver. George Kittle tight end. They got everything. They got everything you can want. Just poor coaching decisions. Oh, goodness. Anyway, I'm not laughing at the Niners. Look, I have some very dearly beloved Niner fans that I am connected to, even though I'm not a Niner fan, so this is not a slight against y'all. And I'm not laughing at your pain. But just think about what you have to have around a quarterback. You can put Patrick Mahomes on the Bears. You can put Patrick Mahomes on the Bears. Would he do better than Justin Fields? Yes, he would. But does that mean that they're going to win a whole lot more games if you don't make any other additions, you don't make any other changes to the Bears, and you have Pat Mahomes in his prime, that will bump you up a couple of wins, but that's not getting you to the playoffs. Even if you could make everybody, he makes everybody better. Like they say, the greats, they make all their teammates better. That's great. That's wonderful. But how great can you get those guys to where they, all of a sudden you're a playoff contender? No. If Pat Mahomes was there, the Lions would have still won the division because the Lions are the best team. And Jared Goff may not be Pat Mahomes, but he ain't no slouch. So you put maybe the not as great Jared Goff with a better team against a more greater quarterback in Pat Mahomes with a worse team. I'm taking the Lions every time. I'm taking the Lions every time. Because even if you're a great quarterback, you need people around you. So what does it make a difference, Chicago Bears, if you don't give whoever the quarterback is a decent offensive line, good wide receiver weapons, a good running back, a decent running game, a defense that can hold somebody to under 3 touchdowns a game? What does it matter who's that quarterback if you won't put or build anything around the guy? I feel sorry for anybody who goes to Chicago. Chicago is the new Cleveland. Cleveland is no longer the Cleveland of old, where quarterbacks go to die. It's Chicago. It's Chicago. That's where quarterbacks go to die right now. Because only Chicago is one of the few teams, not the only team, but one of the few teams who will have at least a decent quarterback, but they still thinking about trading him. Why? Because they don't want to build nobody around him. They don't want to put nobody around him. And look, Justin Fields still has some growing to do, but you asking a dude like that to grow in that atmosphere. Meanwhile, Brock Purdy gets to grow in the atmosphere that he's growing in. Where even if he has a bad game, they still make the playoffs. He has a bad game, they can still get to the Super Bowl. He can get injured and they can still win a game just by running the football. Can Justin Fields do that? Can anybody, even Pat Mahomes, if he was a quarterback of the Bears, can they do that? No, they can't. So it's a difference. It don't matter who the quarterback is in Chicago until everybody else who is around the quarterback gets their heads out of their rear ends and starts to actually play like a football team and starts to compete. And if that means getting rid of guys and putting new guys in, fine. Put the right guys in. Don't just put anybody in. Put the right guys in. And then have the coaches be about a mindset of, we got to get this guy weapons so that he won't get slaughtered out there. What good is it if you put Caleb in there and then he gets hurt in the first game of the season because these old linemen don't know how to block? I'm done. I know only about 4 people are going to watch this, but you know what? That's all right. Because it don't make what I'm saying any less true. Moving on. Of course, we got Washington Commanders, new overhaul regime. Magic Johnson and his crew. Well, not just Magic Johnson and his crew. I can't even say he's the top guy, but he's one of them. Of course, it was a group of them. They get Dan Quinn as the head coach. Dan Quinn just leaving the Cowboys. Now he's going to be against his former team as a head coach now. Even though it was a horrible showing by the Cowboys defense. Because Dan Quinn is who he is, I guess. He can still get a head coaching spot. You know, there are plenty of other guys who probably should get a chance before him that don't look like him. Look more like me. But anyway. Where was I? Sam Howell had his moments this last season, throwing nearly 4,000 yards. But 21-21 in terms of touchdown to interception ratio, not that good. I figured that. I think that if you would have given Eric Bieniemy, who was the offensive coordinator there, if you'd have given Eric Bieniemy a decent quarterback to work with, they'd have been better. But they didn't. That's what he had to work with, and now he's gone again. But you get Dan Quinn, you get Cliff Kingsbury as the OC, and now they've got their pick of the litter because although Caleb Williams, Drake May, and Jaden Daniels are touted as the top 3 quarterbacks, you still got a second round in the first round that I think will go in J.J. McCarthy, Bo Nix, and Michael Penix. And in my opinion, Michael Penix is the best pick of those last 3, in my opinion, which I'm hoping the Raiders get. But yeah, Washington, Dan Quinn is going to pretty much be the head coach, and he's pretty much going to probably run the defense, even though they have another D coordinator, and then they'll let Cliff Kingsbury run the offense. I think that should work well for them, but they need a quarterback, of course, and it depends on what Cliff Kingsbury thinks is his specialty. Yes, he coached, and I think he's getting way too much credit for his time of coaching at Texas Tech because of who came out of Texas Tech, that being Pat Mahomes. But if we're thinking about what worked for him in terms of Pat Mahomes, and then what worked for him in Arizona with Kyler Murray, I'm curious to see if Drake May would work in Washington, because Jaden Daniels to me is, basically what Cliff Kingsbury is used to working with, a mobile quarterback. But Drake May, to me, although mobile, I think he would probably be more, not only be, but be more, way more of a pocket quarterback than anybody else who is touted high in this draft. And him and maybe Bo Nix, and I would even say Michael Penix as well. Michael Penix is not running that much to me. I'm curious to see if Drake May would fit there. I'm curious. I really am curious to see if Drake May would fit there. But as NFL.com is saying, it's probably going to be either Drake May or Jaden Daniels. And then the New England Patriots at number 3. This is a trip. First of all, they shocked me with, I'm not surprised it was a former player, but I am surprised which former player they chose in Gerard Mayo. The Patriots have a black head coach. Of all the teams to get a black head coach, who I thought would probably never have a black head coach, much less, try to circumvent the Rooney Rule by just interviewing them, but never really giving them a real chance, I'd have put the Patriots last on my list to actually pull the trigger and hire a black head coach, even if it was a former player. But if the Patriots draft Jaden Daniels and the New England Patriots have a black head coach, black quarterback duo, consider my mind blown. Seriously. I'm like, wow. After Bill Belichick and Tom Brady and the downfall after Tom Brady departs, what resurrects the team? A black head coach and a black quarterback. Y'all better be out. I ain't saying I'm going to be a Patriots fan, but the doggone it, if you do some good things, I ain't mad at you, as long as you don't beat the Raiders. But anyway, and we win a Super Bowl before y'all win another one, too, because, I need that to happen for my sanity. Anyway, that, I was like, wow. But, I mean, if Washington does go Drake May, they would almost have to. How do you pass up on Jaden Daniels? What, are you going to reach down and get Bo Nix or J.J. McCarthy? I'm thinking that's probably something Bill Belichick would do, but Belichick ain't there no more. And I'm pretty sure Gerard Mayo is going to be focusing mostly on the defense, trying to get them back to where they once were. So I'm curious how they're going to move about, how they're going to get a quarterback. I mean, I can't see them putting faith in Mac Jones to be the future. But anyway, now this one is weird because they're saying the Giants at 4. Now, was it a mistake to give Danny Dimes that money and not pay Saquon Barkley? Absolutely it was. If anything, split that money between the two. Because I get why they don't want to give it to Saquon because of his injury history. But you can't tell me that giving Daniel Jones all the money that you should have given Saquon Barkley was the answer. Because if that was, you guys wouldn't be this bad. And especially after making the playoffs and beating the Vikings in the first round and making it to the second round of the playoffs last year, the year before. Now this past year, you're not even close. What was the difference? What happened? What changed? You went away from the running game and you started relying on the passing game. And just because you got Darren Waller in a trade, who he can't stay healthy himself, you thought it was just going to be passing central in New York. No. I don't know who told you that. I could have told you that wasn't going to happen. Anyway, I'm curious. Like, I think if they get a quarterback, all right, now what do you do with this overly expensive Daniel Jones? It's kind of like you made your bed, now you got to sleep in it. So I don't see them doing that. Next, we got the Broncos. Definitely, because of trading Russell Wilson and what they would get back for him, I highly doubt that them trading Russell Wilson would then get them a good quarterback in return. So they would trade for picks or trade for some other key pieces. The Broncos would, and then oh, and I made a mistake. Actually, the Giants are sixth overall pick, but they're fourth ranked in terms of who would pick a quarterback. But the Broncos, back to the Broncos, they're saying J.J. McCarthy or Jaden Daniels. I hope they don't get Jaden Daniels. Please do not let them get Jaden Daniels. I don't think that Jaden Daniels will work for what Sean Payton would want anyway. If you know Sean Payton and what he was used to, what he was most successful with was Drew Brees. Drew Brees was a pocket guy. He was not a mobile quarterback. I think that's what Sean Payton wants to work with. I don't think he particularly is a fan of mobile quarterbacks. I think he just wants a quarterback to sit in the pocket and make good decisions. That's what I think Sean Payton wants. So I would think that if he had to choose, and again, I'm like, yeah, I get it. How do you pass up on Jaden Daniels if he's there? But I highly doubt Jaden Daniels is going to be down, because it's going to drop all the way down to the 12th overall pick. Now, the Broncos trade to move up. Okay, they ransom everything and they trade to move up. Okay. But, I mean, I guess that would be like, that could be a thing where they trade Russell Wilson to the Patriots, or they trade Russell Wilson to Washington, and then they get that number 2 seed along with, they'd have to, trade Russell Wilson and give up something else, and then get that number 2 or number 3 seed from the Patriots, and then they could get Jaden Daniels or Drake May. So that's a possibility. But if you're talking about them just sitting at number 12, then it's probably going to be between JJ, Bo, and Michael Penix. And I'm hoping they don't pick Michael Penix, because I want the Raiders to pick Michael Penix. Atlanta Falcons, yeah, they've got to get a quarterback as well. There's talk about them possibly trading for Justin Fields. I think he could work in Atlanta. You've got Bijan Robinson, so you have a running game. You have Drake London. You have a good tight end in Kyle Pitts. I think they're a quarterback away from being a playoff contender. I didn't say championship contender, but a playoff contender, because you have to think about what division they're playing in. They're playing in the NFC South. The Bucs won the division with Baker Mayfield and an average record. And at one point, even with a losing record, the Falcons were primed to win the division with Desmond Ridder. So they're a quarterback away from contending for the playoffs, not for a Super Bowl, but contending for the playoffs. So if they get Justin Fields, I think they're good. Or if they get one of these quarterbacks, one of the top 3, or one of the first 3, or one of the second group of 3, any one of those I think would probably work for the Falcons, as long as they get a quarterback. But they definitely cannot whiff on getting a quarterback in the first round. They need one of those 6, one of the top 3, or one of the 4 through 6. They need to get one of those. Vikings. It all depends on if they're going to keep Kirk Cousins or not. I think more things would be leaning toward them keeping Kirk Cousins. But if they don't, they'd probably be looking at 4-6, which would be JJ, Bo, or Michael Penix. I'm hoping they go with JJ or Bo if that's what they want. And again, leave my Michael Penix alone. Anyway, but NFL.com is saying Bo. Oh, no. I don't want Bo Nix. I'm glad the Raiders are on this list because they do need a quarterback. I get it, ALC, yeah, but that was one great game that he had. 4 touchdowns in the first half against the Chargers. I know some people are saying give him a chance, let him grow. I'm on the other side. And that's my team. But to me, you got a Devontae Adams that wants to win now. And the Raiders, with the defense that they have right now, can compete at a higher level and even make the playoffs, I believe, had they had a good quarterback and a good coaching staff all the way through the season. They've got the coaching staff somewhat. I'm a believer in AP all the way, Antonio Pierce. Not necessarily the offensive coordinator that they picked up from the Bears. Nor am I really that big of not a fan at all of them getting Tom Telesco, who's been the Chargers GM for the last 10 years. Really not a fan of that. And I don't think either of those was Antonio Pierce's decision. But he's got to work with what he's got to work with. I think a Michael Penix Jr., a Jaden Daniels, and maybe a Caleb Williams are the 3 quarterbacks that fit the mystique, that fit the attitude, that fit the Raiders. I don't think Drake May would. I don't think Bo Nix or J.J. McCarthy would. I think Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Michael Penix is what fits the Raiders. To me, those are the 3 that fit the Raiders the most. And if the first 2 are gone, which they more than likely will be unless the Raiders were to trade up, but I don't know about the Raiders trading up because they would have to give up so much, then I think Michael Penix is who you target. I don't agree with Bo Nix. I think Michael Penix is the guy that you target. I'll go ahead and read this part of the article about the Raiders. The quarterback market is likely to be picked over by the time the 13th selection comes around, so Vegas will need to make a significant trade up, potentially to 7, with the Titans in order to land one of their top choices. The Raiders are also in desperate need of a defensive tackle, yes, which could be their pick if they stay put, but a trade out to a team hungry for a pass rusher or offensive tackle could possibly net Vegas a 2nd-round pick, which might allow the Raiders to take the 5th quarterback off the board and a defensive tackle on day 2. As always, good teams need to have their grade match the spot they are taking a player. I don't agree with that. But there could be the case here, as teams frequently have wildly different grades on prospects. So, yeah, I don't agree with that because good teams need to get what they know they need first. Not necessarily, who cares about the grade? Who cares about what other people say about what you're doing? If you're the team yourself, you have to make what's best for you. Just think, yes, the Raiders beat the Chiefs on Christmas Day with Aiden O'Connell, with the defense doing almost everything, including scoring. But that's not a consistent thing. So consistently, you have to have the offense scoring. And had the Raiders beat the Vikings instead of losing to them at home 3-0 with a better quarterback, they would be in the playoffs. They should have beat the Colts as well. If you had a decent quarterback that could get you over the hump, that could get you over 3 touchdowns or more on a consistent basis, and then you add on a couple of field goals, you beat the Colts. And look, I get the whole growing, like I said, the growing thing is one thing, but there's quarterbacks that step in and they're playing good right away, like CJ Stroud. And you're saying, oh, well, that's one guy, and that's, everybody's not like that. Well, why can't we get that? Why can't we get that? Before we had Derek Carr And it took him a couple years, and he eventually got good. Before that, we were searching for crazy. We were set back by having Jamarcus Russell. He was a bust as a number 1 overall pick. When are the Raiders going to get somebody that can win now? Especially when you got a team like this. You got a team like this. Think about it. The Broncos are not going to be down forever. If they get a decent quarterback, they're going to be right back in the thick of it. The Chargers have Harbaugh now, so that's a force with a healthy Justin Herbert. And then the Chiefs are still the Chiefs. We don't have time to grow. We have a good defense. We get the running back position squared away. We got Zamir White. We re-signed Josh Jacobs. We got Devontae. We got Jacoby Myers. I think we need to get rid of Hunter Renfrow because he fumbles too much after the catch. Get us another, and we got Trey Tucker as the number 3. We need to be able to compete right now because we don't know how long we're going to have a team like this together. And I know that Devontae loves the Raiders, but I know Devontae also wants a ring. So I don't know how much longer he's going to put up with, growing pains. That's the only reason I could see him saying, I like a Kirk Cousins, because he knows Kirk can come in and make an impact right away. He's expecting Kirk to come in and not have to grow and go through growing pains. I still think that there's I still don't think Kurt is the guy for the job though. He might be able to maybe help us squeak into the playoffs, but I don't see much more than that. I want somebody who's going to be able to take us and contend for a Super Bowl. And we got to be able to hit the Chiefs in the mouth. We got to be able to hit the Chargers in the mouth. We take care of the Broncos every year, so I'm not worried about that. Anyway, shout out to my Broncos fan that I know and love. Yeah. So, and then we're moving on. We've got possible but unlikely to talk about the Seahawks. No, they got, I get it. They'll probably get a quarterback to fill out the depth chart because Geno is 34, but they did sign him to a contract extension. So you can't do that and then say you're going to not go with him, at least for this year or the next year. And then they have the Rams, which I get it because Matthew Stafford, although still a quality quarterback, is 36, and the injuries are just starting to pile up with him. I don't wish anything on anybody in terms of injuries, but to me, he's one injury away from being sidelined for a while because he's just taken such a beating over the course of his career. So, and he's not a mobile quarterback, so it's not like he's a pocket quarterback. It's not like he's going to really ever do much to try to escape the pocket and escape pressure because I just don't think he can mobily. And if somebody catches him, he's going to be out for a long time again and miss games. But yeah, that's it. And we will get to, like I said, more of the NFL Combine is going through it right now. They're going through it in the NFL Combine. Marvin Harrison Jr. in particular, I know that all things point to him going to the Cardinals, but man, if somebody were to jump up and snatch him away from the Cardinals, yeah, him and Kyler Murray would be a great combo. But if somebody were to snatch him, he's my sleeper. Like, I get it, a lot of teams need quarterbacks, and this is a quarterback-heavy draft in terms of stars. But whoever gets him, if it's the Cardinals or if it's somebody else, man, as long as the Chiefs, the Chargers, the Broncos, or the Patriots don't get him, I'm good. He's special. He is special. And it has nothing to do with his father. But, yes, that's why he gets a lot of attention. But he is good himself. He is very good himself. He is my favorite player in this entire draft. He really is. So wherever he goes, I'm going to be watching him. But anyway, that'll conclude this episode of Scout Team Sports. I appreciate all of you for continuing to rock with me. We're just chopping it up, talking here, and I appreciate those who appreciate just sports talk and not necessarily worried about the entertainment that they need to see on YouTube, because that's just not me right now. But at some point we'll get there. I got a lot of ideas in my head. And we'll get to those eventually once we're able to put those things together. But for right now, I appreciate all those who continue to support. Believe until you stop breathing. This has been The Valiant with Scout Team Sports. We'll see you next week.